There you go. Let's see if it's. Oh, that's it. Public. Do you want to retweet it?
Your personal one, like.
Hello, wow. Wait for a few more people to jump on. Hopefully these people want to hear our thoughts, John.
I mean, listen, who wouldn't want to hear a couple of just highly intelligent fight fans like ourselves break down some UFC action from here in Miami, Cageside, front row. I mean, the octagon's like 4 feet away.
I mean, unfortunately, I actually came rocking the Miami. I went for a pink suit, obviously the traditional blue for yourself, John.
Game day blue, baby.
Game day blue. How are you feeling, man? I know we've been to a lot of these now, but I think even all this week we were looking at this main event and we were thinking, man, big fight feel on this one.
100%. I mean, obviously this fight card is stacked. You know, I mean, the UFC has really loaded pay-per-views. You know what I mean? It's fun, but this main event is so intriguing. Stylistically, of course, I mean, two fan-friendly styles, right? Izzy likes to strike. You got Alex Pereira, who, of course, has got the dangerous knockout arts. But, man, just the psychology between these two. 3-0 against one guy, man. It was Chris Curtis, who I thought laid it out perfect in Media Day, where he talked about, Izzy Adesanya, he's the champ, and here's this boogeyman from his past that took away his career in kickboxing, is now chasing after him here. Yeah. And I mean, it's unbelievable. There's so much on the line. And Izzy has embraced that too. Like, sometimes guys like to shy away from it, right? They'll be like, listen, I've had a phenomenal career. I'm a great fighter. No, he's like, I have to beat this guy. I know I can. This is everything. So there's just so much tension.
It's funny, right? Because they always say, 80% of this game is mental. 90% of this game is mental. However many percent of it is mental. A lot of it is. In terms of the fights we've had recently, Usman Leon had a bit of that too. But in terms of mental warfare, mental pressure, the idea of like what is on their mind as they're going to bed, like you have to assume Israel Adesanya is really, as far as I can remember in MMA, a unique position heading into this. And ironically, he might be one of those people uniquely able to deal with it. Do you know what I mean? The guy seems like up for the moment, aware of the task ahead of him, but not overawed.
No, I really liked it. I saw a lot of people this week kind of reacting to Izzy and saying, I didn't really like his attitude. He was short. I liked it, to be honest with you. It was like, hey, I think he talked to you like several weeks ago, right? Was it to say less and do more, right? And I think he embodied that all week long. Like, hey, I'm not here to try to talk things. I'm not here to try to get a war of words going. Normally he's got some quotes and, some of them aren't always the greatest, but he's always got some quotes that he's going with.
What do you think of the collar?
Yeah, the collar was interesting. I'm glad that you took the time to explain it to everybody, because I thought it was just a dog coming off his collar, which that's the simple thing, but it was more of a deeper cliche than that he was doing there. But no, I like it. But listen, and here's what is so intriguing about this too, right? You're talking about a guy that's lost 3 times in 2 different sports, right? But has won more of the rounds along the way. It'd be one thing if this was a situation where, listen, every time these two get together, Israel Adesanya just gets dominated. Alex Pereira just one-sided all the way. And you're like, I mean, we've seen it, right? There's some guys, no matter how they're good, they just have a bad matchup. You go, that dude is just not ever going to win. But that's not what we see here, right? I mean, think about it. We're both in Madison Square Garden. I think, going into the 5th and final round, I know personally, I was like, wow, this guy Israel Adesanya, man, it was all on the line. And boy, did he turn in a great performance, man. This is amazing. And then in 1 second, it's all over. So psychology's just got to be there. And listen, you wonder about, I mean, I'm pretty sure Alex Pereira doesn't overthink things. I think he's just like, I'm going out there. But, dude, he does have things. Think about this. Even as confident as he must be, knowing I had 3 victories over this guy, he has to know as well, I've lost a lot of rounds along the way. What if I lose just enough tonight and I can't land that one shot? I don't get that one big blow. So it's so intriguing.
But it must be tricky for him to feel that way, right? Because he always does. The first fight, right, of all of them, that's the one I'm least familiar with. But it was a very, so I remember it being a controversial decision. But since then, man, like Alex is up against it, and then he's not. A lot of people are suggesting that for Adesanya to find success in this fight, he's going to have to go to the wrestling. In that 3rd round in their most recent fight, he did control him on the ground. He did land big shots on the ground. And realistically, if we're honest about it, Pereira didn't look the most comfortable and looked a little lost, to be honest, against a guy who's not really a grappler. So would you buy into the idea that, hey, is he better come out there and shooting double leg takedowns, throwing him in the air like DC? Or do you think It's more about mixing it up and just tweaking what was already a good game plan.
Well, that's the danger. Like, we all know that I think grappling needs to play a part here, right? And it was kind of funny. In media day, Israel Adesanya slipped up a little bit. He was like, "What if I put him on his back?" He's like, I just beat him.
But was that mind games, John? You know, Izzy loves to
Maybe. Well, and that's the whole thing too, right? Like, if you take, like, we know that Israel is not the greatest wrestler. It's not like he's just going to shoot double legs from distances, automatic take. He's not Bo Nickel out there, or he's not Hamza Shimaev out there, right, where he can just chain it together. So if you don't do what you're best at, then how do you live with yourself if you go out there and you lose again? Like, I didn't even do what I'm best at. You know what I mean? I went out there and I just tried to wrestle the whole time. That's not even what I'm best at. So I think it's going to be a game of high pressure, and we've seen guys that mix it together is make him think all I'm doing is coming at him and then shoot. And absolutely, go for the takedown, get into the clinch, work those positions, but don't do it without setting it up. Don't do it without, from range. No, keep that pressure on him. And then work into the clinch and work in that position.
I have a theory that Israel's going to be very aggressive in this fight. I think he said one and done. I think he was adamant he was going to put the pressure on. Right. I do think they look at Pereira as a Deontay Wilder, can't fight going backwards. The tricky thing is there, right? In the first round of their last fight, Izzy was the aggressor. Right. Hit him late, nearly 3 seconds to finish, But the problem is Alex is so big and so good himself. You can't just keep coming at that guy. He'll get his timing down, right? So is it possible that Israel comes in here with the best intention in the world of getting this guy out of there, and then we're back in the slow leg kick versus leg kick check, Can we get back in there? Can Alex lull him back into that tempo?
He absolutely can if he does. Bruce Buffer in the
house. It's a lovely...
Look at that, Bruce Buffer with the goal.
Bruce, how we feeling? Does this have a big fight feel in Miami?
It's a big fight night. I'm doing a little Miami Vice night, so we're going to have a good time. Enjoy, everybody.
Bruce Buffer, what a legend. Also, we were talking the other day, he's only getting better with age, isn't he?
Yeah.
As the stretches
man, he's got to take care of those muscles, man. Yeah. He doesn't want to block the knee. But yeah, he absolutely can. I think that's what Alex is going to. Again, that's what's so interesting about this whole match. I think we're going to see a lot of aggression for Israel Adesanya, a lot of movement, man. I just think you don't want to stay in one place, give him one position. And again, work to the clinch if you can, work for the takedown, single legs out off the cage, that sort of thing. But that's what's just so tricky is that Israel Adesanya, I believe, has to be perfect for 25 minutes, and Alex Pereira needs to be perfect for about 2.5 seconds.
You've done this a long time. There are still fights that when they get in the cage and Bruce does his thing, your legs start shaking, that palm start getting sweaty. Is this one of those for me, dude? I'm going to be fucking shitting a brick, to be honest.
I love it. And you talk about, we were mentioning Buffer just seems to be getting better. There is nobody that sets the table quite like Bruce Buffer, right, man? Yeah. And I love it when they bring the lights all the way down and it's just on. I mean, we're a couple of hours to that happening. But yes, this is it's just so much tension. I mean, take away the fact that the middleweight belt's on the line. It's a UFC title. Just the personal history between these two guys makes it so special. And then you add in the styles that they both bring to the cage. Like, this is a phenomenal main event.
Co-main event, hometown hero versus the actual other hometown hero guy that no one wants to address, Jorge Masvidal. He's had a busy week in more ways than one. He has really embraced this role as, this is my card. I brought these guys back to Miami. And I was saying earlier, having the kids there at weigh-ins, not something he's ever really shared with us, his personal life. That says to me either he's trying to show like, wow, this is the moment it all clicks, or it could come across as this is the moment it all culminates. And if we don't get a good decision or a good result his way, you never know if he lays gloves down. So, but for you,
that's so wild. They were talking about if he wins, he could be fighting for a title. If he loses, it might be the last we ever see of him. It's so wild.
Yeah. But it makes sense, right? Because look, he's got that name value where I think Gilbert said, look, if he loses to me, he'll be like Nate. They'll have big fights, and there are big fights for him. So another guy this week who's been popping off at him that they could maybe do a fight in the future. I wouldn't like to ask too much about that right now.
Yeah, don't ask those questions, buddy. Any more stupid questions?
So, damn. But what have you made from Masvidal's energy this week? Have you seen anything particularly different in him? Have you seen this 305 moment really hitting him?
Absolutely. It's been so cool to see him. I cannot wait for that walk. I'm assuming it's going to be the Scarface theme like he's been using, and this place is going to absolutely erupt. It was funny. I thought Gilbert Burns, you mentioned being the hometown guy too. At the weigh-ins, he threw up the 305. I thought that was pretty interesting to see. But yeah, these people, right? You see it. I mean, how cool has it been both at the ceremonial weigh-ins and the press conference when we walked out of the arena and Jorge's out there with fans just mobbing it. And what does he do? He doesn't just drive off. He stops, signs autographs, take pictures, giving love.
Blocks traffic.
Blocks traffic, shuts down the street. But it's cool, what I mean? To embrace the community and to really, give that energy back. It's awesome. Tough fight for him tonight. Gilbert Burns, stylistically, a very, very difficult matchup for Jorge Masvidal. I will say, I do think people do kind of undervalue Masvidal's defensive wrestling, and clearly he's been working on it in camp. And he says, hey, having the realization that the end is coming near, so taking things more serious he never has. Man, what a special moment it would be if he could pull off the upset tonight here in Miami.
I mean, dude, I've heard some loud crowd reactions. Volkanovski in Perth was unbelievable. London, when Aspinall beat Volkov, was brilliant. If he lands some strike that puts Gilbert unconscious, I think this place will, apart from everyone who's going to be fighting in the crowd, because it is Miami, I think it's going to be insane in here, isn't it?
It's going to absolutely erupt. I can't wait for it. I love to see, like I said, I do favor Gilbert Burns the matchup. Again, I'm not counting Jorge out by any stretch of the imagination, but yeah, even if Gilbert Burns does walk away with the win, if Jorge can just give him that 1 month, think about like Nate Diaz and Leon Edwards, right? I mean, one-sided fight, like Leon's got this thing in the bag, but he rocks Nate and the whole place goes nuts. It'd be like that.
Now, I know that you're a big fan of Colby and you want him to get that next title shot, but I saw today with TMZ that Dana was saying, look, just because Colby's next doesn't mean this fight doesn't matter. If Masvidal goes out and beats Gilbert Burns, he fights the winner of Leon Colby. And he said if Leon beat Colby, then that fight would be absolutely massive. We're getting into a lot of hypotheticals here, but if Masvidal does do it tonight, you see the scene, the place going wild, and they do get that Leon Edwards fight with him. Hello, Danny. Looks like a nonce.
I don't like Danny being on my back. I see what he does
yeah.
around here when he
Danny
takes the back, bro.
Danny beat up Jose Youngs last night. But yeah, do you think that fight with Leon Edwards could be one of the biggest we can see this year?
Absolutely. I would love to see that. And again, I hate the fact that anytime I mention, I have to talk about some of the Colby Covington, it's like, oh, of course you feel that way. But just to me, I think it's a bigger fight, man. For Masvidal, if Masvidal were to find a way to win, to just go ahead and make that fight with Leon Edwards and then give Colby the winner of that fight. I'd love to see it. You got to get the history, the three-piece in the soda, right? You got to put that in. What a unique time that would be to be able to make that. It's taken so long to build back to it. It would be perfect.
Do you think Colby comes tonight? Is Colby going to be here?
It's interesting, right? I don't know if he legally can. I mean, I just honestly, I don't know if he legally can. And I thought about asking it at the press conference, but then that thing wasn't going real well for us. I was like, you got any more dumb questions, Morgan? I don't know. Why don't you call them and ask him? So I didn't ask it. But I do wonder, if they're, if what Jorge said is true, because he said it earlier in the week, he's like, he has a restraining order against me, right? If that's the case, and I don't know if that's still in place or it's been dropped or adjusted, but there is a restraining order. Can you show up to somebody's place of work that you have a restraining order against? I don't know. So I don't know if legally he can.
Is it 100 feet up there? Do you reckon? He could be at the top.
We did say it would be pretty funny, right, if Colby showed up in his suite and had like 100-foot tape measure that he just started feeding down to the bottom to make sure he was 100 feet clear.
Yeah. Rob,
we did hear Donald Trump's going to be here, though. I think.
Is he really?
Donald Trump's going to be here tonight. So.
Damn, breaking news. Yep. I thought he was busy this week.
I heard he might be here. I heard there's a seat for him. Well, I guess if there's a seat for him, that doesn't necessarily mean he's going to be here. But I heard there's a seat for him.
Okay, that could be interesting. Damn, dude. I mean, this place is going to go nuts for that guy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Rob Font versus Adrian Yanez. I'm big on Adrian Yanez. I think that guy is about as clean a striker as we see it in the sport right now. But Rob Font himself, very good boxer. Has taken a lot of punishment recently, though. Yeah. When you look at that fight, you see these two technical bantamweights. Anywhere you're leaning?
Fantastic fight, man. On paper, it looks like it's going to be fight of the night type action, right? I mean, that's one when they announced, I think everybody just kind of rubbed their hands together and thought, oh, yeah, that's a fight I want to watch. I do feel like Yanez is the real deal, man. I feel like since this guy first came in, we've been watching him and saying there's something special about this kid. I feel like this is his breakout moment. It is. I mean, Rob Font wisely has taken some time away since he's refreshed, he's energized, he's got some crisp boxing of his own. So, we'll see. I'm certainly not counting Rob Font out, but I'm just kind of leaning towards Yanez as that kid that's really ascending right now. There's something special about him.
He's so funny, man. We were talking about this at Media Day. Like, the guy is just a very like a little nerdy kind of guy, like he's so loves fights. He's just really happy and he's excited to be here. First press conference this week, and then he gets in the cage and he's an absolute fucking killer. Yeah. Like what he did in his last fight with the double fingers and everything. I got a little messy too, but yeah, I mean he just everything about him excites me. And we were saying the other day, if you look at that division, Yanez versus Cheeto, banger. Yanez versus Sandhagen, banger. Yanez versus PDN, banger. Yanez versus Sean O'Malley, banger. I love bantamweight. I'm too big for it, though. I will only be fighting a lightweight from now on, John.
I know. You're right, man. All those matchups could be great. And once, if he's able to get the win tonight in impressive fashion like we think we will, all those become absolute realities, right? And the other thing that's fun about Yanez is what a fan he is of the sport, right? I'm like, he He knows everybody in the division. He knows everybody on the roster. He watches, you know, some guys, and I understand why. Like a lot of fighters, they just want to check out. Like it's so mentally taxing that when they're not fighting, they're not competing, they're not training, they're just like, I don't want to watch fights. I don't want to watch other stuff. Like I just have to have my own life. And I totally understand that. He's the opposite. He watches every fight. You know, the first prelim, he'll break it down for you and tell you how it's going.
Even I don't like watching those sometimes, John.
I love it, man. He's that big of a fan, and so, you know, when you bring up matchups in the sport, he'll be able to like technically break down why it would be a good fight, why it wouldn't, et cetera, et cetera. So, yeah, man, he's a fun prospect.
Elsewhere on this card, any names that pop out to you? I mean, obviously you've got Kelvin Gastelum. Oh, Kevin Holland, we haven't even got to him. Kevin Holland, again, another guy with a busy week. I can't quite remember what he was doing, but him and Ponzinibbio, that's a banger fight, man. Ponzinibbio, the heavy underdog, which surprises me. I think I understand that it's like, okay, you can be an underdog, but I think it was plus 280 last time I checked. Very, very, very high. So I'm curious when you look at that fight, do we get another scrap like we got with Wonder Boy, or is Kevin going to be a little bit more technical, a little bit more inclined to mix it up?
He'll come out there and scrap.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Come on, let's be honest. That's the way he likes to fight. He wants to come put on a show, right? And he's been putting on a show in the streets as well. And there's some things going on around places. But yeah, man, I think that's going to be a fun fight. I do lean towards Holland, but I was, as you were, surprised that the line was as wide. I think people are disrespecting Ponzinibbio a little bit because of the close setbacks. And then, you know, you were asking about the other fight, Curtis and Gastelum. That's the one. I mean, there's some other names on the card that I'm excited about, some debuts and that sort of thing that I want to watch.
Raul Rosas Jr. Man, this card is stacked, dude. Every time I think we covered it, Raul Rosas Jr., you know, the young guy continuing. He's saying all the right things. Oh. Ladies and gentlemen, we're about to be here in Miami, Florida. I'll wrap this up. John, it's the main event. It's about as 50-50 a fight as you can get. Which one?
Chase Sherman is off.
There you go, guys. Okay, everyone. The card has been pushed back by 20 minutes with Sherman off the card.
Snake bit, man. I feel bad.
I was about to say, not a lot of luck in that guy's life.
Man, he has had so many of these weird situations, and man, he's been so open and honest about like the anxiety and the stress he faces and trying to maintain his spot on the roster. He quit his job so he could go full time and train full time to try to make it work. And here you go, and you hear an injury and he's out, man. That is unfortunate news for Chase Sherman.
Yeah, I didn't realize that when he announces that, Bruce goes, "Do what you gotta do." I never had that.
That's the famous
I'm
line.
usually in the back with the peasants, dude.
Yeah, normally when it's like, hey, you know, get your bathroom break in or whatever, it's like, hey, the action will begin at the top of the hour, so do what you got to do.
Well, in Miami, those toilet cubicles will probably be busy. Raul Rosas Jr. saying all the right things, but he has, probably because he's heard them before. We're getting the sense that he's recycling some of his heroes material. But when you look at him, what a talent, huh?
He really is. I mean, especially the grappling game. I mean, look, at 18 years old, I am a little worried about his longevity and as he gets these tougher matchups, but he seems ready for it. I mean, mentally, he is embracing the moment, embracing the spotlight. You know, gosh, at the press conference, he's like, hey, if people are hating on me, why don't they just pay attention to me? You know, I'll show them I'm a main card fighter. Look, he's going to get a ton of attention, a ton of pressure. I get the sense that a lot of people kind of are starting to maybe not like the kid a little bit because he's a little bit mouthy and he's talking a little bit, but you got to do what you got to do, man. You got to bring that attention to you and cash in. This is not something you can do, you know, for a long, long time. So cash in while you get it and try to take that attention. But we'll see. Listen, Christian Rodriguez missed weight. Yeah. That was unfortunate. So we'll see. I know neither one of us really liked the way he looked on the scale.
Yeah, I tell you what, when they were announcing a fight was off, it wasn't Chase Sherman that was coming to my mind.
Yeah, I agree. He looked a little worried. So we'll hope that he's okay, that he rehydrated, that he's healthy to go. But, you know, Raul Rosas Jr. is a problem for anybody, especially in the grappling department.
Is he going to be one of these guys, though, that I don't know. Remember Aaron Pico came in with all this hype and then his chin got cleaned and he sort of, you know, just didn't come together for him. Could we be looking at that? Or do you think this guy's wrestling and his ability to go to it? Aaron wanted to stand and bang, right? But Raul's ability to go to wrestling, do you think that's going to serve him better in the long run?
I do. And I think it'll work like how the matchups are as well. I know Aaron Pico, like his camp was, we don't want any easy fights. We want the most difficult fights available. We want the most challenging matchups.
John, I just want to pause you right there. I want to get a clarification something. Fabiano, come here. I need you to translate something for me.
Okay.
Can you say in Portuguese, don't criticize a guy when he's at work and he's the best translator in the game. Mind your fucking business. Can you translate that for me, Fabiano?
Puta que pariu. Para de encher o saco.
Yeah. Sweet. Fuck these people. I love you anyway, baby. Right, back to fights. Poor Fabiano, dude. The guy tries. It's hard to hear these people sometimes.
Yeah, he was taking some criticism, some unfair criticism, I thought.
I thought so too. And to be honest, I've never taken any criticism in my career by anybody, so it's not something I can relate to. But yeah, I'm excited for Raul Rosas Jr. And again, man, it's guys like him, Bo Nickel, that listen, they got a long, long way to go. Even Joe Pyfer. There's just name recognition on some guys randomly. It's like back in the day when, what's his name? Have you ever heard of Jimmy Crute? Like these guys get this little rub and they're ones to watch. And I think Raul knows that and is making the most of it.
And you should. I mean, that's what this is about. There's so many guys and girls on the roster, and there's so many fights that to stand out is really, really tough. And you see the criticism when somebody tries to stand above it. I think Israel Adesanya always refers to like tall poppy syndrome, where somebody stands up and you try to cut them down so they're all the same. And you see that, but I mean, what are you supposed to do? Like just grind and have 20 fights in before somebody knows your name? Like if you get a chance to differentiate yourself, like, okay, who's Raul Rosas? Oh, that teenage kid. I mean, listen, no joke. I remember in the rise of Conor McGregor when like you get in like a cab and they'd be like, hey, what tell me about that Irish kid. I mean, before he was the global superstar and everybody knew the name, they just be like, tell me about that Irish kid. You know what I mean? So tell me about that teenager. Tell me about that whatever. You know what I mean? It's worth it to stand out. So listen, I think there's a lot of upside. I think the UFC is going to be smart in how they matchmake them. There are no easy fights in the UFC. That's you can't just bring in somebody from the local circuit and match them up. So they're always going to be challenging fights. But I think they know the matchmakers are smart stylistically in how they guide somebody and how they match them up. I don't think you have to rush him to be a champ. I know he wants to be the youngest champ ever. I mean,
man, we've heard a few of those before, though, haven't we?
It's hard, man. It's really hard to do. There's a reason John Jones is John Jones.
Yeah. Man, that guy's gone missing again too, huh? Come on, John. Let's fight Stipe.
I was a little bit worried when everybody was like, yeah, I mean, it makes perfect sense. For that fight to be the headline of International Fight Week, hell yeah, man. Unbelievable. But when that fight was over and everybody's like, yeah, we're going to have him back in July, the whole time I was like, guys, slow down just a little bit. We got a lot to get done between these two guys,
Yeah, I saw Dana on TMZ. He was like, John Jones, he comes in, smashes this guy, and then disappears again. No one knows where he is.
You told him to go away. You told him to get out of Vegas. He took it to heart.
Yeah. Right. Oh, yeah, so let's wrap it up. I'm excited, man. This is a big fight card. It's a stacked card. I love this. A couple of these pay-per-views, great main events, not so deep. This one's very, very deep. I was going to make a joke there. I'm glad I rose above it, John. But this main event, it's about as 50-50 as you can get. Are you leaning in any which way?
Dude, I'm telling you, man, I'm leaning towards Israel Adesanya. I last time I thought he was going to get it done. He almost did. And I can't count him out, but I know we've seen it 3 times. It's so weird. We've seen one guy win more rounds. We've seen one guy win every single fight. So I'm leaning towards Adesanya, but I'm so intrigued by this. And then what I'm also intrigued by is once this fight plays out, what does the aftermath do? Because, man, the result of this fight is going to send a lot of people in a lot of different directions.
For sure. You got Rob Whittaker waiting, watching, wondering what could happen here. I'll say this. I'm also leaning Israel. I think Israel, it's funny, Alex said at the press conference, like, I've changed a lot. He hasn't changed since I kickboxed him. I think actually out of the two of them, Izzy has, I don't want to be rude, but a bit of fight IQ that was very second to none. And he can change things up.
He's a more well-rounded martial artist. He just doesn't have that God-given one-hitter-quitter power that Alex does.
It's going to be so funny, right? We're both sitting here big in Israel, and if Alex wins, we'll both sit here and be like, well, of course. Why wouldn't we have picked that? I'm excited, John. Thank you very much for joining me. We're going to try and do these maybe for the bigger cards, as just sort of seeing the reaction. Thanks for joining us. And out of 10, how many frosty beverages is this card?
Oh, this is a 9 out of 10. Easy, man. This is a 9 out of 10 frothy beverages.
All right. Good night, guys.